good morning, everybody. Welcome back. I know. Welcome back to Tuesday Talk with Deanna. I am so excited. I'm always so excited to hop on and talk to whomever my guest is. But Edie Clarke's with me today. She has been on here several times. She is a video rock star. and, and she's got something super, super exciting to share with us at the end of our live. And I'm like, oh, can you come back on? Do you want to talk about video, which is what Edie specializes in? And she's my go-to. And Edie, you are. Every time I think of video, and I'm like, okay, like I know where my strengths lie.
Mm-hmm.
And I know on YouTube, my strength is not on YouTube. So if I am working with somebody, and I will tell my clients that I'm not really, I don't focus on YouTube a whole lot. I do want
Right.
to right now,
Mm-hmm.
that's changing for me, and we'll talk about that. I'm like, but I know who does. And I know I know who knows YouTube and video inside and out. And that is you, Edie. So how are you
Thank
doing?
you. I am doing absolutely amazing. Thank you for asking.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So you actually have, and I guess I'm kind of spilling the beans, but the detail, you have a course coming out
Right.
where you're going to be sharing all of your knowledge about video creation. And today we're going to be talking about the biggest mistakes. Let me
Mm-hmm.
just tell you how excited I am about you doing this course, and I'm going to be taking it. So if anybody is listening in and wants to join me, I am going to be in Edie's course learning everything about YouTube. So what made you decide to, first off, to create this course?
I think it started out of my one-on-one clients. I had a lot of coaching and consultation clients where for some of them, I was actually teaching them a lot of the things that I'm going to be doing in this course. And I wanted to be able to reach out to more than just one person at a time. And I also then decided that I wanted to really follow their path and understand what their issues were, where their weaknesses were, and how I could help strengthen them along the way. So that's sort of where the idea initially came up for this particular course. And in this instance, I actually did a beta, if you want to call it that. I don't know if people are still calling courses betas when
I
they
think
first
so,
did.
yeah.
And so I've gotten a good amount of feedback from that. And what number one thing that I recognized is needed is not only do people want to learn exactly what they need to do, but they need to have the support that goes along with the learning so that they can make sure that once they start to implement the exercises that they need to for each training module, they'll know that they're on the right track because they'll have somebody that they can ask and get support from outside of the traditional Facebook group where you just sort of post, is anybody else having an issue with this? Or I'm having a problem
Right.
with blah, blah, blah. So I wanted to sort of do both. Ideally, I wanted to do the training as a live, and I did do it in the beta as a live, but I'm going to do it as a self-paced moving forward. But I am going to be offering live coaching calls for 12 months in addition to
Nice.
that.
And I think that's so important because
Yeah.
you need that one-on-one time too. And I am guilty of taking courses and doing the course and then
And
just
then
kind of
letting,
forgetting
like,
about it,
yeah,
maybe not
yeah,
even
you forget
finishing
about,
it,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So,
exactly.
so video has been around forever. YouTube has been around for a really long time.
Hmm.
But with the surge of video now, that it's almost required. It doesn't matter what platform you're on, whether
Yep.
you're on Facebook
Very
or
true.
Instagram,
Yep.
video now is like, oh,
Yep.
wait a minute. This is really important that we need to
Right.
figure out, we need to figure out our video.
Right.
Now, how have you seen YouTube change, if at all, with this whole video. I mean, this is their arena, but now everybody's digging into it. Have they
Yeah.
made changes along the way?
They have, in terms of, I don't think when YouTube first started, which is almost, I think in a couple of years we're going to be at the 20-year mark, believe it or not.
Wow.
Um, but I don't think that a lot of people, when they first started to use YouTube, or even when they, noticed it, saw it as anything more than, oh, this is where you just put sort of like goofy videos, or, personal stuff. It wasn't something that you used for business. And over the years, it became more business centric, not only from the standpoint of the creators on the platform creating a business for themselves and becoming multimillionaires in the process, but for businesses to actually use it as a tool that they could market their services or their products on. And over the time that they've been around, yes, Facebook has incorporated video, Instagram, then you have video centric apps like Snapchat and TikTok that have come out. Even Pinterest
Yeah,
favors
you're
video
right.
now as well. I mean, everybody, and
Everyone,
LinkedIn. I mean, you can't, there's too many
they're
to
everywhere.
mention.
Yeah.
And so I think what YouTube at its core is a search engine. And so that is something that right now, short of Pinterest, and I'm not that familiar with video on Pinterest, but I know that Pinterest is a search engine as well. Um, it can't compare to Facebook or Instagram or any of those, because they're not search engines. So that
Hmm.
is the main primary reason why you want to definitely make sure that you're using YouTube. But with YouTube, what they've done to sort of keep themselves on top of things is they've adjusted. They've switched things so that they can sort of, I don't know if I should use the word compete with the other social platforms that are out there, because YouTube is a social platform. So
Right.
a number of years ago, they came out with Community, which sort of is similar to like a Facebook feed where you can do still posts, or you can do video posts. And then recently, they came out with Shorts, which was sort of like the answer to TikTok, if you will.
Hmm.
That's blowing up really, really big. And I am trying to experiment with it myself. And I've seen that when I have experimented with it, it has worked. So it's just really, again, with anything social media, it's about consistency. So you just need to make sure that you're doing that on a consistent basis. But they're keeping up with the times. If there's something that's out there that's hot, they're definitely keeping up with that and incorporating it into their platform as well.
I was shocked when I learned that YouTube is the second largest search
Largest search
engine
engine. Mhm.
behind Google. And I never, prior to that, I never thought about it. I figured it would be something else that would be, the
Right,
second largest search
right,
engine.
right.
So I was really, really surprised to learn that. Now, we're going to be talking about the three common mistakes that people make and how to fix them. So I'm
Hmm.
dying to know, can you share the first one? What is
Yes.
something and I'm sure I make all three of them because you do. So I'm learning here with everybody else who's listening in. What do you see as one of the most common mistakes?
The number one is usually a lack of clarity. And I can relate to this because that was an issue that I had when I first started. Even though I had started my video business before I was doing anything related to YouTube, I realized quickly I needed to, well, not as quick as I should have, but I realized that I needed to familiarize myself and understand YouTube as a platform. And not only is it the second largest search engine, but it is owned by Google. So basically,
Mhm.
whatever you Google something, you're more often than not going to find a video that's related to it, because obviously Google is going to show YouTube results on
Right.
its platform.
Why wouldn't
Um,
they? They own it.
yeah, exactly. But a lack of clarity is usually the number one thing, because if you don't get that right, then everything else that follows is sort of moot. It doesn't make sense for you to do it. So the lack of clarity usually comes when someone doesn't know exactly what they should be creating when it comes to creating a YouTube video. And they may sit back and think, oh, okay, well, this is an issue I have, or oh, I found this really cool thing. Let me just do a video on that, or whatever it is that they might feel is important to themselves is what they will then decide, oh, okay, let me do a video on this. And then they'll put it up on YouTube. And that is definitely not going to work. And the other dilemma might be that they're truly coming up with blanks. They just don't know. They may be an expert at what they do, but they're absolutely baffled as to what they need to do in order for an audience to react and respond and engage with their content. And they just, you know, they're just like, I don't know what to do. And everything that they have tried just doesn't seem to be working. And the main reason for this is you have a lack of clarity. You're not very clear on a number of things. Why do you want to create this content? Who are you creating it for? Are you and why are you the best person to deliver this content? So you need to answer some questions in order to get the clarity. So if you're an expert at social media marketing, then who is your audience and why do they need you? And some of these are fundamental questions that we have to ask ourselves just in the regular course of business. In order to have a business, you need to know what your why is and who your target audience is. And so you kind of have to think in that world in regards to the content that you're going to create for your YouTube channel.
Yeah,
So it's
and
really, really important.
I'd love to add to that, because whenever I'm meeting with a client, and you know this as well, right? We talk about who are you targeting and why. And so many times I get the response, oh, men or women, this age
Right,
group, right? It's
right.
all like demographics. And I'm
Narrow.
like, I'm not talking demographics. I'm
Right.
like, because I think that's the first thing we think about are,
Mhm.
let me just pick these certain boxes, right? Like of demographics, and that's who I'm targeting. But it's actually more than that. I always tell them
Right.
to think of your ideal client as a restaurant. I know it's cheesy. I know it's cheesy, right? Who are they? Are they the 5-star? Is it McDonald's? And
Mm.
neither's right or wrong, right? But some
Right.
want a quick fix,
Right.
some, it's just very different. And then I ask why, like describe them, build me that person.
Right.
And is it the same thing when you
It is
are
very
trying to
much
gain
so.
clarity
Yes.
for
Yeah.
video?
Yeah. So you need to really understand who you're targeting and why are you targeting them and what are their needs. And then the next step after that. And then also, why are you the best person to deliver it? Because if you don't really even understand, and I'm totally relating to all of what I'm saying because I've been there.
Me
If
too.
you, yeah, if you don't
You know
understand,
it too.
right. If you don't understand why you're doing what you're doing and who you are in being able to deliver it. I mean, I had issues with imposter syndrome and all of this kind of stuff, thinking, well, I don't know enough. I don't know this. I don't know that. And that's, you have to kind of get past a lot of that, because that could also be a reason for your lack of clarity. It's because you're sort of like all confused about what you want and who you are. So it's really important for you to identify your whys with regards to that. And then the next stage is really understanding who your audience is and what specifically are they struggling with. That is key, because once you understand what they're struggling with, then you can come in with your solutions and you can deliver it in the way that is natural and good for you so that you can build that know, like, and trust. I don't believe in people trying to mirror what others are doing. Whether it's, you can get ideas from your competition, but you should not do exactly what they're doing, because you're unique, you're different. And even though
Right.
you might be targeting quote unquote the same audience, you're not really, because you speak to a different person than they do. And so you really need to hone in on how can you deliver your message to your ideal audience.
So I'm curious to find out if you have tips on how to find out what your client's problem is. And I'm going to explain
Mhm,
why.
mhm,
A lot of times when I'm talking to somebody and I'm asking, like, what problem, what solution do you offer? Like, what is
Mhm.
your ideal client's pain point?
Right.
And the answer that I get is what, and I'm guilty of this, right? So this is
Mhm.
everything I
I'm
think we're
probably
talking
guilty
about
too.
is all full transparency because we have both been through this. And I
Yeah.
used to do this too. We would answer and say, oh, well, this is their problem.
Mhm.
And I'll share what I do now
Mhm.
to really fine tune that. But I'm curious, do you have some tips on how to figure out what your ideal client's real problem is?
Yes. There's a number of ways. I wish I knew all of these
Yeah.
when I was starting
A
out.
time saver if we knew in the beginning,
I
right?
know, I know. And some of them are probably no-brainers for hopefully most of the audience watching. But one of the easiest ways is if you already have an existing audience and you have an email list, or if you have a couple of clients, simply ask them.
Mhm.
That's the easiest no-brainer way. The other ways that you can do it is I would recommend joining like Facebook groups or any sort of networking group where there's going to be a massive amount of people, ideally a group that mirrors what you do. So even if it's a quote unquote competitors Facebook group, you're not going to go in there to steal clients or do anything like
No,
that.
right.
You're literally doing it for research purposes. So you're going to go into the group and you're going to sort of scroll through the feeds and see what kind of questions are they asking. What are the
Mhm.
struggles that they're experiencing? And then you can even ask questions that would elicit some sort of a response that would give you more information in terms of what specifically their issues are. And with that, you just sort of come up with a list of, oh, okay, so people really struggle with XYZ. And then you
Right.
can keep track of all of that information and do this on multiple platforms. Don't just do this in Facebook, do it on Instagram, do it on, I'm not on TikTok, so I don't even know if it's, I'm presuming it's not feasible on TikTok, but whatever platform, LinkedIn, you name it. And if you're
Yeah.
also in standalone networking groups, that actually is even better because you tend to have, it's almost like a focus group. You know, you have all
Right.
of
It
those
really is.
people, yeah, there that you can ask the questions, whatever it is that you do. And I don't think it even really matters what industry you're in.
I agree, and I love that you say that. And I always recommend whatever comments you're seeing to put what they are saying in a spreadsheet, their words,
Yeah,
because then you can
exactly. Use their
reuse
words.
their
Yes.
words back to them.
Yeah.
And I do those same things. I pay attention to a lot of conversations on Facebook of
Mm-hmm.
what people are frustrated with and what they're struggling with. And
Right.
then I use that
Yeah.
to market. I
Mm-hmm.
also, somebody had shared with me, actually, a business coach I was working with said to call 5 people who are your ideal client, but that are not current clients.
Mm-hmm.
Call them and ask them 2 questions. And the one is, what is your biggest obstacle when it comes to fill in the blank of
Right.
whatever you're offering, right?
Right.
And
Hmm.
then, but when they answer it, don't just take the first answer. Ask them to keep explaining it
Mm-hmm.
because there's usually an underlying something
Right.
more beneath that. And they're
Right.
going to tell you the first thing that comes to mind. But as you ask them, to explain it a little bit more and what does that mean to them, you actually uncover the real
Mm-hmm.
problem.
Yeah.
And then the second is, what do you take into consideration when making a decision to work with, again, fill in the
Mm-hmm.
blank of whatever you're
Right.
offering, and then
Right.
listen to what their answer is.
Yeah,
And
those are two
I
great
did that
questions.
right before my rebrand. I did
Mm-hmm.
that, and I thought I knew the answers, and I did know some, but I was
Mm-hmm.
blown away at some of the things that people were sharing about what they were really overwhelmed with. And
Right.
I'm like, "Oh, I totally missed that mark." Like,
Mm-hmm.
I really did. So the reason I share that is, what Edie is saying about gaining clarity and understanding, defining your why and understanding your target and their problems. It's so valuable to invest that time in the beginning and do your homework. It will save
Right.
you a lot of pain
Yeah. Yeah.
in the
But it's
long
never
run.
too late though. It's
No,
never
it's
too late.
not. It's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So,
let's talk about the second biggest mistake that you see. The first one is people have no clarity. They
right.
they they lose their clarity, or they don't know how to get clear on what they're doing. So what's the
Right.
second biggest mistake?
The second mistake usually is around the act of actually creating videos, and they just get absolutely overwhelmed by the prospect of having to create a video. And I think primarily the reason for this is they just put too many expectations on what they assume they will need to do in order to create content. When people think of creating videos, first they get overwhelmed by if they have an issue with the way that they look or sound on camera. That's usually going to be number one reason why people are like, nope, nope, not doing it.
If it's not a good
Um,
hair day,
yeah,
I don't want to do it, right?
exactly, exactly. And I can understand and relate to that because that was also an issue that I had when I first started. And in fact, most of my videos, if not every single one of them when I first started, did not feature me, my person in the video. You heard my voice, but that was it. And then the other thing is that they assume they're going to have to purchase really expensive equipment, and
Mm,
so that's not something that they want to venture out and do because they don't see it as a revenue generating part of their business. So why put the expense out there and getting all this, fancy lights and mics and cameras and all of this kind of stuff? And I totally can understand where they're coming from with that. And then the last thing is usually when it comes to when they hear the word video editing and they're like, nope, not going to do it. Can't handle that. Don't know. No, I'm not techie.
I'm like,
Yeah, I,
my brain explodes. I'm like,
yeah,
I don't want to
exactly.
do it. I
Exactly.
don't want
And
to do
so
it.
any one of those things, but usually all three of them will prevent people from even creating the videos. They may have the ideas, they may have the clarity and understanding what it is that their audience might want to see from them. And they're quite content to do that in a text post with an image or something like that. But when it comes to actually creating the videos, those are usually the three roadblocks, or at least one of them, that will prevent them from creating videos. And the truth is, the vast majority of us, I forgot exactly what the statistic is, but I think 66 or 65% of us learn better through video. So even though you may be really good
Yeah,
at creating blog posts and you have the best images that you curate from whatever stock footage place it is that you get them from, there's going to be a large percentage of people that won't read through your entire blog post. So it's really important that you try to hit as many people as you can. You can still continue to do your blog posts and your written text and image, whatever that you do,
right.
but you are missing a good portion of the population by not doing a video. And a video is really quick for people to digest. So I highly recommend doing it, but don't get overwhelmed by all of the different things that you need to do in order to create a video, because you do not need to have or use, you don't need to be in the video. That's number one. Very, very important for you to understand that. Number two, you don't need to use expensive equipment. I am a proponent of using what you already own. And especially post COVID, we all have web cameras
We
and
do.
99.9% of us use smartphones. So those are
Hmm.
two cameras that have 99% of the time HD 1080p quality.
Right.
So you have your camera. When it comes to lighting, you can shoot outdoors or sit in front of a really brightly lit window.
Yeah, I'm
Or
looking at my lighting, and I actually pulled the curtains to the side. I have the ring light right now because there was too much sun, and now it's dark outside. I'm like, I should have adjusted my
yeah,
ring light because
yeah,
now it's too
yeah,
dark. It's
yeah.
too dark in
And that's
here.
that's the downside about relying on Mother Nature for your
Yeah.
lighting is
Yeah.
that even in sunny Florida,
I
a
know.
cloud or two may go past. And so that sort of, impedes your lighting in some way,
It
shape, or form.
does. I need to just get in the habit of closing the
Mhm.
drapes
Yeah.
and only relying on the ring light because it's
Yeah.
consistent.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Exactly.
I've been
Yeah.
looking at it and I'm like, this lighting, its lighting is killing me. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah,
but
and or even if you're not in front of or even if you have the windows open, if you have some sort of overhead light, if you have, like I have a lamp in the back, but it's not really, it's more lighting that area as
yeah,
opposed to lighting me. So in my room, I actually am in front of a bank of windows, but I have most of the drapes drawn because I have lighting. I have softbox lighting, and I have a ring light that's a little bit above me that if I go like that, you can see the ring
yeah.
light. I try to keep it so that it's not in my eye line because unfortunately I wear glasses, and that's something you have to
Mhm.
be cognizant of when it comes to ring lights anyway.
Right.
But you can use, your overhead lighting. If you have a lot of lights in the room, whether they're lamps or what have you, that in addition to the lighting that's coming from outside might be something that you can sort of work with, even if it's not necessarily the brightest outside. Like I have a covered porch, so I'm not going to get the brightest of the bright lights coming in
Yeah.
my room if I just relied on the exterior sun. So, you can sort of tweak and figure out where is the best place for you, whether it's at your desk or if you're going to use a tripod. That's probably one of the things that I would recommend. If you're using your phone, make sure that it's on a stable something. I mean, some people
Mhm.
used to like prop them on bookshelves and stand and talk. If that works for you, by all means, do that. But
Yeah.
there are ways for you to film yourself that isn't going to be extremely expensive because you have a web camera and you have your phone, which has a camera on it. So those are the
So
two
I
things I
I
would
love the idea
recommend.
that to do videos, you do not have to buy any special equipment, and
No.
the majority of us already have it. I
Yeah.
think most of us have a cell phone,
Yeah.
so you could record on your cell
Mhm.
phone. You can use the camera on your desktop if you've got one that
Yes.
does. The microphones are part of it, and you
Right.
can use the natural light outside
Yeah.
and find a place to do
Exactly.
it. So it doesn't require a lot of stuff. So we can check that off, right? When it comes to
Yeah.
creativity, we've got the equipment to do
Yeah.
it. Now we can
Exactly.
upgrade our equipment if we
Oh,
want to. We
totally.
can
That
buy
is
they
totally,
have a
yeah.
ton of products. They have a
Yeah.
ton
Oh,
of
yeah.
products.
And there's apps that you can use that can go along, whether it's on your smartphone or whether you want to use it on your desktop. There are things that are out there. There are tools and platforms that exist to make your life easier, that run the gamut in terms of really affordable to somewhat pricey. So it is
Right.
totally up to you as to how involved you want to get with actually creating your video. And then the third area is when it comes to editing. That's usually the okay.
So
I
how do
don't
we
want to do that.
edit? Is there a
There are,
way, like
yes,
what should we know? How, like, talk to somebody like me that hates editing,
right,
that A, doesn't have the time.
right,
I watch YouTube videos to learn how to splice and remove a section in YouTube, right? And it
right,
will take me way too long to
right,
do that.
right.
And I'm sure it's like 2 seconds to do, but it'll take me.
Yeah, I mean, I happen to love editing. That was sort of my how I entered into working for myself. I used to work in production before. And so editing has always been a long love of mine. So I can't relate to people saying, oh, I
Like
hate
me.
it. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
hate editing.
But I understand if it's something that's foreign to you and it's not something that you're used to doing, I totally get that. And there are a lot of platforms out there that can make editing really simple and easy for you that look like a regular editing software platform, and those run the gamuts again in terms of pricing. But there was a tool that was introduced to me, I want to think it was early last year, because it was post COVID, and it allows you to edit as if you're editing a Word document. So if you can edit your blog posts or an email or a letter, then you can edit a video because you're literally removing the words by text. You're going into the Word document portion of this editing platform and you highlight the area that you want to remove and you hit delete, and that actually edits it for you. Now, there is some minor cleanup that you might need to do that requires you to go down to the timeline. But the meat and potatoes of actually splicing your video together, you can do through using text. And the tool that I'm talking about is Descript, or Descript, I think is the
Yeah.
proper
I'm not sure which way you say it.
right. And so that is a platform. When I realized that, I was like, oh my God, this would be a game changer for everybody that I've ever spoken to that said, oh, I hate editing. Oh, that's the worst part. I don't mind filming. I don't mind being in front of the camera. But when it comes to editing, nope, 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 don't want to have anything to do with that. And so this really allows you to effortlessly edit your video. There's a short little tiny learning curve in just understanding the platform, but it's not anything that you need to go through weeks and weeks and weeks of playing around with before you understand it.
And so just to repeat this, because you introduced me to that platform. So I can upload my video into
Mm-hmm.
Descript or whatever it's called, and it shows the text
Yes, it
of
transcribes the video.
it
It
transcribes
transcribes your
it.
video when you upload it. It transcribes your video. And so it comes out as a Word document. You have the ability to edit just removing words, or you can go down to the timeline and do it the old school way. But I recommend just focusing on the text itself.
And it edits
Yeah,
the video. It takes it out.
you just
I mean,
remove the portions of the video that you like. If you say, for example, you recorded yourself, you stumbled a few times before you got the beginning of it. Maybe you, ended incorrectly, or maybe even in the middle, you flubbed a line and you chose to repeat that line again. Everywhere that you made a mistake, you highlight it like you would in a Word document, and you
yeah.
literally hit the delete button, and that brings the two sentences together. And then on the timeline, it's removed that video footage from the timeline. Now, you do need to go down to the timeline and maybe scrunch the lines together a little bit so that there's not maybe a longer gap, or, you might need to do some minor tweaks, but
Yeah.
you don't need to use the timeline to edit. And that's the thing that
How
usually
easy.
sends people bonkers.
That is so easy to use. So
Yeah.
anybody who is like me and hates editing video, you can just go there. And that's why I love live streaming so much, because I don't
Yeah,
have to edit.
exactly.
However, with live streaming, you never know what's going to happen. I've had
Yeah.
times where my dog has barked in the middle
Right.
of
Yeah.
something because
Yeah.
Amazon has come to the door, or FedEx or whoever has dropped
Yeah.
something off,
Right.
and it's like, but that's what happens
Yeah.
with live. So
Well, I
I
do
love
have a tip for you on the live streams, if you don't mind.
yes,
And this is
please.
post live stream. When you're doing a live stream, I learned this. I think it was from Owen Video years ago, and it was ingenious when I learned it. He recommended that what you do with your live stream is, before you even do a live stream, have in mind how you want it to be repurposed, or how you want it to affect the people that are going to watch it on replay, and really design the layout of your live stream as if it were actually just being played. It was a pre-recorded video. So in other words, open up where you're talking about what, you're giving your teaser, what's the video or the live stream going to be about. Don't necessarily greet every single person that comes onto the live every single time that they come onto the live. You can do it at certain times, like do it first thing when you start, and then don't do it again until like middle of, if you're going to do an hour long live stream, do it at the middle mark of your live stream, and then continue on with your content, so that way you can, it's either A, it's concentrated, or B, in post, you can actually remove it. So it would be easier to remove. And, sort of design it so that people will want to keep, watching, because a lot of people that are, particularly if you're going to repurpose your Facebook Live on, some other platform, people aren't going to be seeing it live. They're going to be seeing it as a replay or as a standalone video. And so they don't want to sit there watching you say, oh, hi, Jen, thanks for joining. You don't want to see that. So when I heard that, I was, oh,
Yes.
that's ingenious. But the other tip that I would put in there is I have Camtasia. That's my editing platform that I use for my screen recorded videos.
Okay.
And so I throw my trainings or any live streams, I put them in there. You can trim out whatever mistakes you have, the dog barking, somebody ringing the doorbell or what have you. You can remove all of those things. But the other thing that's ingenious about this is, and you don't have to have Camtasia to do this, is I put markers in on every time I switched topics. I put a
Yes.
marker in so that when I then upload that to YouTube, it comes out as chapters. So those are the time
I
coded
love that.
areas. Yeah. So you can allow the person who is viewing the video, they can see in the description, oh, okay, at, 20 minutes in, Deanna's talking about whatever. Let me jump to that. And YouTube doesn't penalize you if people jump around using the chapters. In fact, they are encouraging any video, I think that's in excess of 5 minutes long, that you use chapters. So that is a great way to repurpose, is to use the chapters. And if you do not have Camtasia, all I would recommend that you do is you find what the time coded times are. It's a little tedious, but if you have a VA, you can have them do that. And then you manually put the time code in the description with whatever it is that you're talking about at those times. But if you're going to repurpose a live stream, highly recommend that you think about the format before you even start the live stream, and then you add chapters or markers to it afterwards.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
both of those tips. Thank you. Now, I have a question for you because
Yes.
I live stream this to two platforms, Facebook and YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Now, since it's live streaming to YouTube, and I do love the chapters, I use those a lot when I'm on somebody else's YouTube page. Is there a way to add those chapters automatically with an app
Um,
if it's
Not
already live
automatic, not
streamed?
yet. That
Okay.
hasn't been,
So if someone's
although
listening, can you build
uh,
that for us?
I know. You can, when you upload a video to YouTube, like really below, I don't know exactly where it is, somewhere below the description box and below where you put your custom thumbnails, is a box that you can check if you want YouTube to automatically create chapter points for you in your video.
Oh,
I've had that selected on a number of occasions. Most of my videos that are, I would say, longer than probably 7 or 8 minutes have chapters in them, but not every single, especially not my older ones. And I've not seen the automatic chapter capability. I would check that box anyway when you go into the back end of YouTube. I check it and see what happens.
okay.
But again, if YouTube is listening, I would love to know if that feature actually is supposed to work. But it is supposed to kind of be there. But if not, then again, you'd have to either make note as you're doing, which is, I don't know how, capable
Yeah.
everybody's going to be as you're recording. Oh, at 39:08, we talked about fill in the blank. So you can do that if you're astute enough and you can multitask in that way. I don't have the brain cells to do that. Or you can go in afterwards and just sort of scan through and say, oh, okay, yeah, here we were talking about this, here we were talking about that. Or if you're doing it on Restream and you want to incorporate, like a question, and you have something that is a visual mark, then that might be an easier way for you to get the markers.
Oh, that's an
Once you get
idea
them
because
to YouTube. Yeah.
I do use Restream, as you know, and I have not really dug into everything that Restream offers.
Right.
So I just use it to live stream, and that's it. It's just a tool for that. So
Yeah.
thank you for that, because
You're
I
welcome.
know that those are my questions that I have, and I appreciate you answering them. But now we've got to get to the third common
Yes.
mistake that you
Yes.
see people making. And what is the third one?
The third one is usually their, whether they have clarity or not, whether they're uncomfortable or not, they get to the point where they have content and they just literally throw it up on YouTube and just say, okay, I've done it. It's on YouTube. And they sort of just sit there and expect YouTube to do its thing.
Yeah.
And their video is going to get found and seen by all of these massive amounts of people, and they're going to become a YouTube star. I don't know. So it's an overall confusion on or misunderstanding about what YouTube is capable of doing. And so they make a lot of assumptions in terms of, okay, everybody says I need to be on YouTube. I'm on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel. I post videos, but nothing's happening. And so they're like, I don't understand why isn't, why am I not becoming successful? Why are my videos only getting single digit views? And
Yeah.
so that, everything that you're doing up until the point of upload to YouTube is to lead to you being able to get the views. So if your video isn't clear on who it's targeting and why you're creating it, and does it actually solve the problem that your ideal audience is having, it doesn't matter how many videos you post, nobody's going to watch them. And then if you are doing that, if you're crystal clear and you understand who it is that you need to target, and you're using their words, you've used all of the various keyword research tools that are out there so that you can really fine tune that perfect video title. And then you create your video however you create it, whether you're in it or not in it. And then you upload that video and you're still not getting the kind of activity that you envision, then it's because you're assuming that YouTube is supposed to do everything for you. A lot of
Mm,
people just assume their job stops at upload. They've uploaded it, they've either made it public immediately, or if they've scheduled it for a later date for it to release, and then they're like, okay, I'm just going to sit back and wait and see my
right.
views just take off. And it doesn't work like that. It's like every other platform that's out there. You have to let people know that you've just uploaded a video. So you
So,
need
okay.
to market it to other places. You need to share it to Facebook. You need to share it to LinkedIn. You need to announce it to your email list. You need to embed it on your blog or your guest. I mean, you need to do all of the typical things that you need to do in order for it to get found, because it is a search engine. And so,
And you know what? I would do that. And I've learned from you some tips that I've incorporated, but I would do that. I'd upload the video and I'm like, okay, I'm done. And I'd have a title. And I've
yeah,
learned there's from you that there's actually a technique on how that title needs to be formatted. Like
yeah,
what you say, how you create
right,
that title is really
right,
important. How you
right.
create the description is really
Yes,
important.
yes.
Tags, right?
Mhm.
We've got tagging at the bottom.
It's not, tags are not as important as they used
Okay.
to be. The two key elements that are crucial to the success of a video being found through search or being found through YouTube helping you
Yeah.
is the title and the thumbnail. And the thumbnail is
Really?
really, really, really important, because those are the two things that people are going to see that's going to determine whether they're going to click on your video. So a lot of
Okay.
people may see your thumbnail and not click on it. And they won't click on it because it's not enticing. It doesn't tell them that there's an urgency. It doesn't tell them whether it's actually answering or going to answer whatever their pain point or question is that drew them to YouTube to begin with. So you need to make sure that the imagery on your thumbnail matches what your thumbnail or what your video is about. And the other
Oh, I'm
thing
feeling
is,
called out right now. I know. I knew.
yeah,
I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna get beat up because I know
yeah,
there's a huge," which is why I'm
yeah.
taking this course, which
I
we're gonna
saw
talk
some of
about.
your, yeah, I saw some of your thumbnails. Like, I gotta talk to Deanna. Gotta talk to her. The thumbnails
I
are
know.
lacking. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. I
So
know. And you know
yeah,
what? Because my brain is more programmed, and I've said that, right? That I haven't done as much on YouTube. I focus more Facebook and Instagram
right,
and LinkedIn,
right,
and
right,
it's visual. So
right,
I recognize that the graphic that I create for these live streams are are more visual, where it would work on Instagram, probably the
right.
best,
And
right?
not, yeah,
But
they
it's
don't
abs
shine.
and I
Yeah,
agree with you. It's
yeah.
not a YouTube cover, but I think it looks so pretty, but I know,
Yeah,
like
it can be adjusted slightly, because the key things for your, obviously your title is going to be optimized. It should be less than 60 characters long. And then for your thumbnail, you need to make sure that it is on brand, number one. So I know your brand is like black, and is it maroon, or it's like a pretty
it's like a red, but it's not
red?
quite a
Yeah.
maroon, but yeah, it's everything that you shouldn't use on YouTube.
Yes, exactly. And so, but that's, because your red isn't red red. It
It's not a
seems
red red.
more like
It is a deeper red,
yeah,
like,
it's a
but
deeper red.
not a maroon, but it is a
Right.
deeper
Yeah.
red.
Yeah. And so whatever your brand colors are, you can use all of your brand colors, or you can use the primary colors or what have you. But you want there to be symmetry. And when people look at your video thumbnail, they'll be like, oh, that's Deanna. Okay, I know I need to go to Carbon Silk YouTube channel. And so that's number one. Number two, you need to make sure that there are faces, which you do use faces on your thumbnail. But besides that, you need to have wording that matches whatever the title is. But it should not be the title of your video crammed onto your thumbnail,
Okay.
because you have to understand, and it took me a long time to realize this, because I'm going to admit thumbnails were not high on my priority list when it came to creating YouTube videos. But I create my thumbnails in Canva, and you know that or whatever platform, it could be Photoshop as well. Whatever platform it is, when you're usually creating your image, it's fairly big on the screen. Well, in order for me to sign off on it, I actually switched to their gallery view, which makes it much smaller and closer to the actual size that it's going to appear on YouTube. Because when you go on to YouTube and you look at their homepage, or you're browsing, the
Yeah.
thumbnails aren't very big.
Right.
And so that's how you have to think in mind. So you need
Hmm.
to use the least amount of words possible that still convey what your video is about. And
Okay.
so the cap is like maybe 5 words that you
Okay.
can use. And you should use, I don't know, I'm not a font design person, so you can correct me. Is it sans serif, where it's just straight? There's no like curves on the
Yeah,
letters?
there's no curves on that
Okay.
one,
So you need to use that kind of a
which
font,
is what I prefer, but I don't like all the
so
curves.
that
Well,
it's
it's
much
just cleaner.
legible. Yes, it's
Yeah,
cleaner. Thank you.
it's much
And
cleaner.
yeah. And so, and some people go, I have not done this, but some people go to the extreme of A/B testing their thumbnails.
Oh,
I don't go to that extreme. What I will do is I release a video, and then if after a period of time it doesn't do that great, then I'll swap out the thumbnail to see if
okay.
that will change. But it's definitely, you need to have an image. You don't need to have it crammed with a lot of text, and it should match your branding. And whatever you're going to do, try to be as consistent as possible. So I know, like with your videos, you have you and the guests on your thumbnails, but there's no title. So I would
Right.
put something on there That's not the name of your live stream, because that doesn't mean anything to anybody. It should be based on what the content of that video is going to be about.
Okay. All right. I hear you. Thank you. Thank you for
You're
that
welcome.
tip. And
You're
I,
welcome.
I have to think that there are other people other than me making that mistake when it comes to thumbnails, or just they have no idea what to do
Yeah,
with the thumbnail. They
yeah,
may just use a clip and not actually create
right,
a
right.
thumbnail.
Yeah, some
So
people still rely on the three default thumbnails that YouTube picks, which are usually the three worst images that you can pull from, I swear to God, from your video.
honestly,
And
I always say when it's frozen, they have
yeah,
to find the worst image of
yeah,
like
they by
eyes
far do
closed,
that.
mouth open, like just
Yeah,
something
yeah, yep.
terrible, and that's what they
Ding,
pick.
ding, ding.
So let's talk about your workshop that's coming up. And I am so excited to hear more about this and to be part of it. So if anybody's listening, I will share the link of how you can join me in joining Edie's program, because you're starting pretty soon. It's happening in
Yeah,
August.
it's going to start in August. It's going to be the middle of August, and it's called the Embrace YouTube Video Framework is the new name of it. I'm not making it an intensive since I'm not doing it live anymore. And it is 6 modules that actually it's 9 modules that are going to be released over a period of 6 weeks. It's going to be drip fed out to the audience, and it is going to be accompanied by 2 monthly live coaching calls. So as
Wow.
you're going through the lessons, you'll be able to jump on to a live call every first or third Thursday of the month and be able to ask whatever questions that you have. If you hit a stumbling block, if you need to get feedback, if you want to just make sure, am I doing this correctly? If you have some obscure question that the content wasn't able to answer, if you just want to get and hear what other people are experiencing, then come on to the group call to get that support. I am eventually going to have a private community as well. It's not set up yet. I'm still debating on where I want to have that
Right.
community, but I really want, with this training, I didn't want to just offer the training and just see you go off into the sunset and hope and pray that you had success. I really wanted to guide you through after you've completed the 6 weeks, because I've done it live. And even doing it live, some people weren't able to keep up with the lessons because every single module has homework that you need to
Right.
do in order for you to, move on technically to the next phase. But a lot of questions may come up, so I want to be there to be able to answer and help you through those.
I love this. I love that. And I'm guilty of taking a course if it is where it's an email and you watch
Mhm.
the video, right? It
Right,
goes to my back burner. I'm
right.
gonna,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
But then can't always make the live ones. But what I
right,
love that I think is such a game changer in what you're offering is it's up to you. You can take the course and watch them or not, but then you are offering 2 sessions, I mean, group coaching sessions following that. So this is actually for a
right.
full year, we get
Mhm.
Edie.
Yeah,
And so if I listen to video 1, on day 1, and I don't get to video 2 till month 3, it's okay because I
yeah,
can hop in wherever I'm
yeah.
at and I can
Exactly.
still reach out to you. I think that is
Yeah,
so, so valuable. I am
yeah,
so excited to
yeah.
take this course. Now, what is your website and how can we find you?
Well, people can find me by going to my website, which is edieclarke.com. The course is still sort of in the setup stages, so I don't have a landing page, but anyone that is watching this replay, if you are interested, just put the word embrace in the comments, and Deanna or I, depending on whose platform it is that you're responding to, we'll reply with more detailed information, a syllabus, so that you can get a clear understanding. But this course is going to cover everything from gaining clarity, understanding exactly what it is that you need to know before you even start to create your first video, into understanding the keywords and the best tools to use. I recommend tools throughout the entire portion of this training so that you can use vetted, viable, really good platforms that I know work, and I'm training you on how to use them. And then from there, we'll go into video creation. You can use the tools that I recommend, or you can do them on your own, and that includes recording and then editing your videos. And I can be there on the coaching calls to see the content that you've either filmed or edited and give you feedback on that. And then finally on the YouTube piece, and just understanding what to do in order to get your content onto YouTube, and most importantly, what to do off of YouTube.
I can't wait. I can't wait. And if you are on my email list, I will be sending out emails about this course to everybody as well. And I would love to take this course with some people that I know. So
That would be
reach
cool. Yeah.
out to me. It'd be so cool to take it
Yeah.
with, people that I'm friends with, people that I know,
Yeah.
and it'll be neat to meet other people as well. So
Yeah.
I'm so pumped about this. Edie, as always, thank you so much for coming
You're
on.
welcome. Thanks for
I
having me. I always enjoy talking with you.
I
Always
love it.
fun to
I love
catch up, because this is kind of our best way to catch up too.
it. Really is. I know, because we were both so busy, and
Yeah.
it's like, unless we schedule in on, well, hey, I'm going live. Why don't we talk
Right.
there? It's
Exactly.
just not gonna happen. I know. But anyhow, thank you everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you next Tuesday. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.